Hello, this is Benjamin Fulford speaking on September 18th, 2025. It is now clear that something very big is going down, and it does look like a white hat move. Now, my own sources, this includes Russian FSB, MI6, and Pentagon types, are all saying some kind of big military move is scheduled for October. I do not know the details, but it's interesting that U.S. troops were treated to great hospitality at a giant Russian military exercise in Belarus. So this is an indication that Russia and the United States military are coordinating this. The other sign is that the Russian defense minister, defense chief, is in Iraq to coordinate some kind of military alliance, and Saudi Arabia has just announced a military alliance with Pakistan. That's very important because Pakistan has nuclear weapons, and if Israel attacks Saudi Arabia, then they'll face Pakistan aggression. So this is a big one, and it does look like Israel is going to be taken down. Now, Israel is actually, controlled by an inbred group of oligarchs, as we all know, and they are also definitely under attack now. Now, the big one for me was that they designated Antifa as a terrorist organization, and they're going to go after the funding of these organizations. So that means all these rent-a-mobs and all these other things that are happening are going to be facing a crackdown. So that's huge, too. Now, the other thing I'm noticing is a takedown of the corporate media. The New York Times is being sued for $15 billion. And just think about it, okay? It's the New York Times. They're in New York. They never once wrote the truth about 911. Okay, that says enough, That I used to respect that newspaper, but they've lost the plot. Now, the other big one is the Rothschild family is going to sell off their stake in The Economist. Now, they've owned The Economist since before Karl Marx. I mean, this is more than, like 150 years, so that's a big one. And then all these big-time U.S. TV hosts, Jimmy Kimmel and a whole group of them are being removed from their positions. So it looks like a crackdown on this fake media and on these fake rent-a-mobs is actually happening. So I do see signs, and people like Bill Ackman are now being outed. So the Charlie Kirk thing is turning out to be a major white hat psyops against Israel and against the Khazarian mafia. That's what it looks like. By the way, I was told by a CIA type that Charlie Kirk is actually alive and at a U.S. military base. I mean, it's one source telling me that, but it is a well-connected source. So it looks like this whole thing was staged, and now they're going to take it all away. But the other thing that I think people should be aware of is that it looks like the white hats have a new Donald Trump. Please take a look at this video of Trump and Melania arriving to meet Prince William in the UK. Now, Prince William is 6'3", and the real Trump is 6'3". So clearly, this one is shorter. He lost 4 inches, so it's not the original. But I was told that for security reasons, they didn't think it was a good idea for the real Trump to go there. But the fact that is that he's saying things like Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is, to quote, is fucking me. When you have a Trump who's saying bad things about Netanyahu, then that's clearly a sign that he's under white hat control. Now, the other thing that's going on is that people are aware now that attempts to murder prominent critics of Israel are not going to be able to end this ongoing revolution. And I'm especially glad to see Colonel Douglas McGregor now being more open about the real problem facing the United States. Here you can watch this clip where he blames who should be blamed.
The point is that, China's a current boogeyman, so tie your future to the boogeyman and say, now we're all in this together. No, we're not. We're not in anything at all with Israel. Israel is controlling us for one simple reason. He's bought and paid for the United States Congress and the White House. And there's an old saying, there's nothing more reliable than a man you can buy for cold, hard cash. And it looks like that's what he's got. And the audience that he's talking to, as I understand it, consists of large numbers of members of Congress. And I'm sure they've been handed cue cards for the 29th visit so that they all know when to stand up and give a standing ovation. He owns it. Now, how does he own it? Well, we know who the billionaires are in the United States, many of whom have dual citizenship, who have poured hundreds of millions of dollars into President Trump's campaign to get him into the White House and to buy up support for Israel on the Hill. It's worked. They're in control. The question is, how long will the American people put up with this? When do we hit the streets the way people have hit the streets in London? I don't know.
Now, the other thing I'm noticing is that more and more citizen journalists are confronting politicians who sold their souls to Israel. I think you should watch this one too, of Kash Patel, FBI director, being called out as a bitch for Israel.
Kash Patel, the American people want to know, how does it feel to be a cup for Israel? Answer the question.
We're seeing and hearing what the FBI is doing on a daily basis.
You're claiming to serve the American people. You're serving Israel. Does it feel to be Israel's bitch? You don't care about kids getting raped. The American people want to know.
He's a patriot.
Patriot?
He's a patriot.
Rape kids? Is patriotism to
Thank
you?
you for your service, Direct.
Raping kids?
You're an idiot.
I'm an idiot? Really?
Yes, you are.
I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
We should make sure none of these people is allowed to appear in public without being confronted by the Jeffrey Epstein, the child torture stuff, because that is important. And again, in tribute to my colleague Robert David Steele, who was one of the most influential people exposing this pedophile network, here's a clip of him speaking. This is one of the reasons why he was killed.
We have 1,000 military bases is not for military power. They're lily pads for smuggling. That is how CIA smuggles gold, guns, drugs, cash, and small children for the elites in the United States. War is a profit center, not just for oil. War produces body parts. It produces orphans. It produces all kinds of human goods that can then be trafficked. And the banks rely on war and drugs for their cash flow, for their liquidity.
The specific reason he was killed is because he discovered the financial network with computers in Antarctica that were being used to finance all this child rape and torture for production of adrenochrome. So, it's clear that the corporate media is being taken down, the oligarchs, the funding that is being taken down, and it's pretty clear, too, that the United States is going to have to declare bankruptcy. The mathematics just doesn't work. If you look at, for example, all the real estate loans coming due, there was a building in New York that sold for $380 million in 2006, and now it's sold for $8 million. Uh, that's going to happen across a lot of the cities. The banks are bankrupt. They're just faking it, and it's an important thing to do. Also, getting back to Trump, it is clear also they're using a lot of computer-generated Trumps as well for security reasons. Watch this clip and look at how Trump's fingers glitch out. So this is a sign that this is AI.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight, all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot. Charlie was a patriot. Charlie was a patriot.
But again, it seems to be white hat AI, and that's a good thing. But clearly something has clicked, something is changing, but we still have some very prominent people who need to be removed, and I, for one, would like to see, the BlackRock World Economic Forum, Larry Fink guy, removed from positions of power because he's been associated with using directed energy weapons to force people from their homes for real estate development purposes. And here in this video I'm about to show you, you can see he talks about how they co-opt government officials around the world before they come into power.
I mean, there are a lot. They talk to a lot of people, but I do believe because of the business model of who and what we are, our reach, we're heavily involved in most countries' retirement. Whether it's in Mexico, we're the largest third non-Mexican, non-4A retirement manager. We're the largest retirement manager non-Japanese in Japan. We're the largest retirement manager in the UK, including the domestics. And so having that position, it's all about long-term issues, but it's things that you can't replicate because it's based on years of relationships and trust, and whether it is. And I do go out of my way when there's somebody who's new in their role, a new prime minister. I will spend time. Generally, what I try to do is spend time before they win, and meet the candidates. So, whether it's in Mexico, spending time with Claudia before she won, or spending time with Keir Starmer. Right. It's just spending time with them and just saying, you have access to whatever information you need.
Okay, so he's trying to keep this control of fake politicians going in the West, and this is not going to be allowed to continue. But it's important. We've got to see more people fall on pedophile charges. So far, only Lord Mandelson, the UK ambassador, has been taken down by Epstein, but I think this is just the first domino, and a lot more are going to fall. So things are happening, folks. The autumn offensive has begun, and it's visible in many ways, but I've been told repeatedly that the real action, the real fireworks are coming in October. So hopefully this will finally end this nightmare we've all been living. And France could well be the first one to go because they've had their 5th prime minister in 2 years, and the people are rioting all over the country. They've got $300 billion in debt coming up, which they're not going to be able to roll over or refinance because their credit rating has been cut. So France is heading for some kind of collapse, and I expect also the U.S. is going to have to declare bankruptcy. And I have repeatedly said The Dragon family has a plan to help the American people and the Western people once their criminal government is removed. You're not going to be left with any debt, and you're all going to get paid back the money that was stolen from you through more than a century of central bank fraud. We're not going to punish legitimate businessmen, but a lot of people are going to get big checks of money that was stolen from them or from their ancestors. We're going to end this network of control through money, bribery, and murder, and the West will once again become strong and free and at the very forefront of human progress. That's what we're aiming for, and that's what we all got to push for. Remember, though, everybody has to do their part. Even if it's small, we all have to be involved to make sure this finally ends. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself today. Now I'd like to answer questions from readers and viewers.
Hi, Ben. I know you touched on this a little bit already. Charlie Kirk was starting to turn on Israel. Gen Z already hates Israel and forever wars. If Charlie gained traction with his huge following of young people, it would have been devastating for the Zionists going forward. He's also a great friend of Candace Owens, and she's 100% anti-Zionist. That 1-2 punch could not be tolerated by the KM. I don't believe his death was faked, and I do believe it was a Mossad hit. Too much surrounding his death doesn't make sense unless you look at it from a standpoint of Netanyahu trying to get rid of him, or was he in danger and that's why his death was faked for his benefit? What are your thoughts?
It's hard to say, but the expression used in cases like this is cui bono. I mean, who benefits? So if you look at what's happened with the Charlie Kirk assassination or staged fake assassination, I really don't know which it is. But the clear thing that is being taken from this, though, is that even though a lot of people came out and said, "See, this he deserved it, and you're next," all those people are being arrested or removed from positions of power or influence, and it is being used for a huge anti-Israel campaign. So whatever, even if it was Israel trying to silence critics, what's happening is that it has unleashed a storm against Israel, and it's about time. I mean, that country needs to be replaced with the nation state of Judea, and that's what's going to happen. Next question.
Hi, Ben. Just touching on this a little bit more. We do see, like you said, the arrest of critics of Charlie Kirk. Do you think this is going to end up being a threat to our free speech?
I definitely have my worries because they say, all right, we're going after all the bad lefties, but then they're going to go after, maybe people you agree with. So I don't like the precedent. However, you have to understand that there are limits to free speech. So, for example, inciting violence, saying let's all go to the ghetto and kill everybody there, is not allowed even in free speech. So if it's just a crackdown on threats of violence or incitement to violence, then maybe it's okay. But definitely we have to be careful about this because first they go after people you don't agree with and say great, but then they start going after you, and there's nobody to protect you. So we do need to guard free speech. But it is clear that a lot of the corporate media long ago gave up free speech and became radical, lying propaganda outlets. And I include the New York Times, CNN, and a lot of the other corporate media. They were out and out lying. There's no other word for it. And that should not be allowed. People should not be allowed to produce a newspaper that prints lies and pretends it's the truth. That's not what journalism is about. Next question.
Hi, Ben. On the day of the Kirk shooting, Congress also voted 51-49 against the release of the Epstein files. Do you think we will ever see them? They simultaneously, on the same day, passed a House bill that would allow Secretary of State Marco Rubio to strip USA citizenship from critics of Israel, and this is right after he was seen praying at the Wailing Wall. What do you think will come of this?
Well, clearly, the Israelis are fighting a desperate rearguard action. They have an incredible sort of huge number of censors going over chat rooms looking for, what they call anti-Israel speech, and they're trying very hard to censor things, but it's just not working. People quickly learn to use different words. So, for example, they won't write Jew or Israel. They'll say the alien grays, or instead of saying Germany, they'll say Grimania or something. It's so overwhelming now, the public anger at the elite, that it's beyond any form of censorship. So no matter what Israel tries, they're going to lose this one. The whole world's against them now, including most Jews. Next question.
Hi, Ben. In regards to the USA forcing China to sell most of its shares in TikTok, what do you think is the real motive behind this?
This is definitely something to do with Larry Ellison of Oracle, who apparently has just passed Elon Musk as the richest man in the world. But some sort of deal was reached with China on that issue. And what I've heard is that the TikTok in the United States will be on U.S. servers and will be subject to NSA scrutiny to make sure it's not used for nefarious Chinese purposes, or whatever those may or may not be. But some sort of deal is definitely being worked out, and I think that Ellison and Elon Musk and a group of oligarchs close to Trump are going against another group of oligarchs who were behind the whole Clinton-Obama business. And I think this group is also trying to make a deal with China, because basically speaking, the United States now runs on Chinese money. The U.S. government was shut down tomorrow without Chinese money. That's a fact. And it's an unpleasant fact. That's why I keep saying they have to declare bankruptcy. But since they don't, every September they got to suck up to China. And this is apparently what's going on, but I don't know all the details. Next question.
Ivan, is the takedown of the current government in Nepal and installation of a new government a white hat operation, or just simply an angry population?
I think it's a combination, but it's important to note that this was triggered by a Nepali government order that, social media like WhatsApp and Meta and stuff submit to Nepali censorship, and instead these companies. Conclusion. Next question.
Evan, we have our last question for today. What are your thoughts on the AfD party in Germany?
I think that they represent very legitimate and real grievances of the German people, and they try to... I think, all Western countries should remove military-aged foreign-born men who aren't working and seem to have an income coming from some source that they can't identify, i.e. the Soros Foundation type of people. They should all be removed. I do think so. Okay, well, that's what I have to say for myself this week, and I hope to see you again next week.